What would you do if the man you trusted most handed you divorce papers right after you landed a huge promotion at work? I'm Eulalia Vane, and 6 months ago, I thought I had everything under control. My husband Caleb was predictable, my 6-year-old daughter Sophie was sweet, and my career was finally taking off thanks to some very special mentoring from Martin Roussel, who happened to be Caleb's boss. I convinced myself I deserved happiness, that my emotional needs justified my choices. I was wrong about everything. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. The kitchen smelled like burnt coffee and accusation. Caleb stood by the counter, his project manager's polo wrinkled from another long day, watching me scroll through my phone with those increasingly suspicious eyes. "You're texting Martin again," he said, not really asking. I didn't look up from my screen. Martin had just sent a heart emoji after our lunch plans, and the thrill still buzzed through my fingers. "It's work stuff, Caleb. Some of us are actually trying to advance our careers. At 9:30 at night, networking doesn't follow a schedule." I finally met his gaze, letting irritation creep into my voice. "You'd understand if you ever tried it instead of just showing up, doing your job, and going home." Caleb's jaw tightened. In our 7 years of marriage, I'd watched that same expression countless times, hurt masquerading as anger. "I'm trying to understand why my wife needs to text my boss after our daughter's bedtime." "Your boss?" I laughed, the sound sharper than I intended. "Martin isn't just your boss, Caleb. He's the VP of operations. He's helping me navigate the company politics that you're apparently oblivious to." "What company politics?" I set my phone face down on the granite counter, the gesture deliberate. The kind where people notice whose spouses actually support their ambitions and whose spouses question every professional relationship they build. Sophie's footsteps padded down the hallway. "Mummy, Daddy, why are you talking so loud?" The accusation in Caleb's eyes softened instantly. "Hey, princess, we're just discussing work stuff. Go back to bed, okay? Can Mommy read me another story?" I was already moving toward her, grateful for the interruption. "Of course, sweetheart. Daddy was just finishing up in here." As I guided Sophie back to her room, I caught Caleb opening the laptop on the kitchen island. Probably checking those boring project timelines again, I thought. He never did anything interesting. 20 minutes later, I returned to find him studying our joint credit card statement on the screen. "Corner Bistro," he said without looking up. $47 last Tuesday. You said you packed lunch that day." My phone buzzed. Martin's name lit up the screen, and I felt Caleb's attention shift like a laser. I casually flipped the phone over. "It was a work lunch," I said smoothly. "Last-minute thing with the quarterly review team." "The quarterly review team?" "Yes, Caleb. The team you'd know about if you paid attention to what happens above your pay grade." He closed the laptop slowly. "Above my pay grade." I didn't mean it like that. But I had, and we both knew it. "I just meant that there are opportunities you're not seeing. Martin's been helping me understand the bigger picture." "Martin's been helping you?" The way he repeated my words, flat and careful, made something cold settle in my stomach. But then my phone buzzed again and the thrill returned. Martin was thinking about me. Martin saw my potential. "I'm going to bed," Caleb said. I waited until I heard our bedroom door close, before checking my messages. "Can't stop thinking about this afternoon." "You're incredible, E. Tomorrow can't come soon enough." My fingers flew across the keyboard. "Same here. Caleb's being paranoid about us texting. Maybe we should be more careful. Don't worry about him. Focus on us. Focus on your future." I smiled, feeling that familiar rush of being chosen, being special. Martin understood me in ways Caleb never had. Martin saw my ambition as an asset, not a threat. Upstairs, I found Caleb already under the covers, his back to my side of the bed. I slipped in beside him, close enough to smell his familiar soap and fabric softener scent. "I'm sorry about the pay grade comment," I whispered. He didn't respond. "Caleb?" "I heard you." I pressed closer, my hand finding his shoulder. "I'm just stressed about work. You know how important this promotion is to me." "Yeah," he said quietly. "I'm starting to understand exactly how important it is." Something in his tone made me pause, but then my phone lit up on the nightstand with another message from Martin. The glow felt like validation, like proof that I was worth someone's late-night thoughts. I fell asleep smiling, completely missing the fact that Caleb never did. The corner bistro buzzed with lunch-hour energy, all clinking silverware and muffled conversations. Martin had chosen our usual table in the back corner, away from the windows, away from prying eyes. He looked devastating in his navy suit, the kind of powerful that made me feel electric just sitting across from him. "You look beautiful today," he said, his fingers brushing mine across the table. I'd spent an extra 20 minutes on my makeup that morning, telling Caleb I had an important client presentation. "You're not so bad yourself." Martin's laugh was rich, confident. Everything about him radiated success. The expensive watch, the perfectly styled salt and pepper hair, the way servers instinctively gave him the best service. He was everything Caleb wasn't. "I've been thinking about our conversation yesterday," he said, his thumb tracing small circles on my wrist, "about your career trajectory. And? I think it's time we made some moves. There's a senior analyst position opening up next month. It would mean a significant raise, your own team, real influence in the company." My heart raced. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious. You've got the talent, Eulalia. You just need someone in your corner who recognizes it." The way he said my name, like it was something precious, made me dizzy. What would I need to do? His smile turned playful. "Just keep being exceptional. Keep being us." I leaned forward, not caring who might see. "I can definitely do that." "I know you can." His hand covered mine completely. "You're nothing like the other wives at company events. You have fire, ambition. You're not content to just exist." The implied criticism of Caleb stung in the most delicious way. Martin saw me as an individual, not just as someone's wife or someone's mother. "Speaking of company events," Martin continued, "there's a strategy dinner next Friday. I'd love for you to be there, networking with the right people, showing your face in the right circles. I'll be there." "Good girl." The phrase sent heat rushing through me. When Caleb called me that, it felt patronizing. When Martin said it, it felt like recognition. We spent the next hour talking about everything: business strategy, office politics, his divorce 3 years ago, my frustrations with domestic life. Martin listened like every word mattered, asked questions that showed he was really paying attention. "I should get back," I finally said, glancing at my watch. "So should I. Though I'd rather stay here with you all afternoon." As we stood to leave, I caught a flash of movement by the front windows. Rebecca from accounting was walking past, her phone in her hand, pointed in our direction. Our eyes met through the glass, and she quickly looked away. "Everything okay?" Martin asked. "Fine," I said, but something cold had settled in my chest. That afternoon, I could feel eyes on me as I walked through the office. Conversation seemed to pause when I passed, then resume in hushed tones. By 4 o'clock, I was paranoid enough to check my reflection in every reflective surface, wondering if I had something on my face. Rebecca stopped by my desk around closing time. "Hey, Eulalia, how was lunch today?" The question was casual, but her smile was sharp. "Fine. Why?" "Oh, just saw you at the corner bistro. You and Martin looked like you were having quite the intense conversation." My training in manipulation kicked in automatically. We were discussing the quarterly projections. Pretty dry stuff, actually. "Mm-hmm." Rebecca's expression suggested she wasn't buying it. "Well, it's nice that he's so hands-on with mentoring, very personal attention." After she left, I sat staring at my computer screen, my mind racing. How much had she seen? How much had she assumed? More importantly, who else might she tell? At home that evening, Caleb was helping Sophie with her homework at the kitchen table. They looked up when I entered, matching expressions of cautious welcome. "How was your day?" Caleb asked. "Exhausting," I said, which wasn't entirely a lie. The office politics are getting ridiculous. People have nothing better to do than gossip and make assumptions. What kind of assumptions? I opened the refrigerator, using the door as a shield while I composed my expression. Oh, you know how it is. A woman has lunch with a colleague, and suddenly everyone's reading into it. It's frustrating being one of the few women in senior positions. Everything gets scrutinized. That does sound frustrating. Something in his tone made me look at him more carefully. It is. Martin warned me this might happen as I advance. He says jealous colleagues will try to undermine successful women however they can. Martin warned you? Yes. He's dealt with this kind of office drama before. It's actually helpful having someone with his experience to guide me through it. Sophie looked up from her math worksheet. Daddy, what's office drama? It's when adults act like children at work, Caleb said, his eyes still on me. I felt heat rise in my cheeks. That's not exactly... Can we talk about something else? Caleb interrupted. Sophie, show Mummy what you learned about fractions today. As Sophie launched into an enthusiastic explanation of denominators, I caught Caleb watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. It wasn't the hurt confusion of recent weeks. It was something cooler, more calculating. Later, after Sophie was in bed, I found him in his study, laptop open, fingers moving quickly across the keyboard. What you working on? I asked from the doorway. He minimized whatever he'd been looking at. Just some project documentation. Nothing exciting. I moved behind his chair, placing my hands on his shoulders. You work too hard. Someone has to. The comment stung. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. I'm just tired. I began massaging his shoulders, feeling the tension in his muscles. Maybe we should plan a weekend getaway. Just the two of us. Sophie could stay with your mum. Maybe. His lack of enthusiasm was frustrating. Here I was, trying to reconnect, and he was giving me nothing. No wonder I'd been drawn to someone who actually appreciated my efforts. Caleb, are we okay? He was quiet for so long I thought he might not answer. Finally, he said, I don't know, Eulalia. Are we? The question hung in the air like a challenge. I wanted to reassure him, to lie smoothly, and make everything comfortable again. But part of me was tired of pretending, tired of managing his insecurities. We're fine, I said finally. We just need to communicate better. He nodded but didn't turn around. Communication, right. I kissed the top of his head and left him to his work, missing the fact that he immediately reopened whatever he'd been looking at. Missing the fact that my name was at the top of the document. Missing everything that mattered. The promotion announcement came on a Thursday morning, delivered via company-wide email with Martin's signature at the bottom. Please join me in congratulating Eulalia Vane on her advancement to Senior Data Analyst, effective immediately. I read it 3 times before the reality sank in. I'd done it. I'd actually done it. My phone buzzed immediately. Martin, congratulations, beautiful. You've earned this. Then another. Celebration dinner tonight. I know the perfect place. I was still glowing when Caleb appeared at my cubicle, soon to be my office, with 2 cups of coffee and a strained smile. Congratulations, he said, setting 1 cup on my desk. Thank you. I couldn't keep the triumph out of my voice. I can't believe it actually happened. I can. But something in his expression suggested he could believe it for reasons I wouldn't like. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. I'm proud of you. The words were right, but they felt hollow. Around us, I could feel the office watching, listening. Some faces showed genuine congratulations, but others wore expressions of knowing skepticism. We should celebrate tonight, I said. Dinner at that new steakhouse downtown. Actually, I can't. I have to work late. Big project deadline. What project? The Morrison account, the one I was supposed to present next week until it got reassigned. I felt a flicker of something, guilt, concern, but pushed it aside. I'm sure there will be other opportunities. I'm sure there will be. That afternoon, I moved into my new office, a corner space with actual windows and a door that closed. Martin stopped by around 4, ostensibly to discuss quarterly targets, but really to bask in our shared success. How does it feel? He asked, closing the door behind him. Incredible, like everything's finally falling into place. He moved closer, his hand finding the small of my back. This is just the beginning, you know. With your talent and my guidance, there's no limit to how far you can go. Our guidance, I corrected, turning into his touch. Our guidance, he agreed, his lips brushing my ear, though we should probably be more careful now. Senior positions come with more scrutiny. The warning should have sobered me, but instead it felt thrilling. We were important enough to be scrutinized. We mattered. I can handle scrutiny, I said. I know you can. It's one of the things I love about you. Love. The word hung between us, electric and dangerous. He'd never used it before. Martin, I should go, but tonight, that celebration dinner, let's make it special. After he left, I sat in my new chair, spinning slowly to take in my new view. Through the glass wall, I could see the main floor where Caleb worked, his head bent over his computer, shoulders rigid with tension. My phone rang. Eulalia, it's your mother. Hi, Mom. I just got your text about the promotion. Honey, that's wonderful. I'm so proud of you. Diana Vane had always been my biggest supporter, sometimes to a fault. Thanks. I'm still processing it all. You deserve this, sweetheart. You've always been too smart for your own good. Remember what I used to tell you? Never dim your light for anyone. I remember. How's Caleb taking it? He must be thrilled. I glanced out at my husband's hunched form. He's adjusting. You know how men can be about their wives' success. Oh, honey, is he giving you grief about this? Not exactly grief, more like distance, like he's threatened by my advancement. Well, that's his problem to work through, isn't it? You can't hold yourself back just to protect his ego. The validation felt like warm honey. You're right. I've worked too hard to apologize for succeeding. Exactly. And if he can't celebrate your wins, then maybe he's not the partner you need. After we hung up, I felt fortified, justified. I was doing nothing wrong by accepting recognition for my talents. If Caleb couldn't handle having a successful wife, that was his limitation, not mine. That evening, Martin took me to an intimate French restaurant across town, far from anywhere we might encounter co-workers or neighbors. We talked about everything except work, except Caleb, except the growing complexity of our situation. You're different tonight, he observed over dessert. Different how? More confident, like you're finally seeing yourself the way I see you. How do you see me? His smile was warm, predatory, as a woman who deserves everything she wants. I felt beautiful, powerful, desired. When he walked me to my car, his kiss was deeper than usual, more possessive. I'll see you tomorrow, he murmured against my lips. Yes, you will. I drove home feeling invincible, right up until I walked into my kitchen and found Caleb sitting at the table with a stack of papers and an expression I'd never seen before. We need to talk, he said. About what? About the Morrison account, about your promotion, about why my project got reassigned the same day you got advanced. My stomach dropped, but I kept my voice steady. I don't understand what you're implying. I'm not implying anything, I'm asking directly. Did Martin reassign my project to make room for your advancement? That's ridiculous. Your project reassignment has nothing to do with my promotion. Doesn't it? He held up a printed email. This is from HR, dated 2 weeks ago. It outlines the budget reallocation necessary to fund your new position. Guess which project got defunded to make room? I stared at the paper, my mind racing. Even if that's true, it doesn't mean what, Eulalia? That your mentor made space for your success by undermining mine? You're being paranoid. Am I? He stood up and I was surprised by how calm he seemed. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like my wife's career advancement came at the direct expense of my own, and I'm wondering how exactly that arrangement got negotiated. The accusation hung in the air like poison gas. I felt my face burning, my heart pounding, but I forced myself to meet his gaze. I can't believe you're suggesting what I think you're suggesting. What am I suggesting? That Martin and I couldn't even say it. Are you? Are we what? Having an affair? The word landed like a physical blow. Even though it was true, even though we both knew it was true, hearing it spoken aloud made everything real in a way I wasn't prepared for. How dare you, I whispered. How dare I what? Ask my wife directly about her relationship with my boss? Accuse me of sleeping my way to a promotion I earned. Did you earn it? I slapped him. The sound cracked through the kitchen like a gunshot, and we both froze, staring at each other in shock. Don't you ever, I said, my voice shaking, ever question my professional abilities again. Caleb's hand rose to his cheek, but his eyes never left mine. I'm not questioning your professional abilities. I'm questioning your professional methods. Get out. This is my house too. Then I'll get out. I grabbed my purse and keys, my hands trembling with rage and adrenaline. At the door, I turned back. I'm sorry I hit you, but I'm not sorry for refusing to be accused of something I didn't do. Okay, Caleb said quietly, but Eulalia. What? We both know you did do it. I slammed the door so hard the windows rattled, but I couldn't slam it hard enough to drown out the truth in his words. Margaret Turner's living room had always intimidated me. Everything was perfectly coordinated, the throw pillows, the family photos, the way the afternoon light hit the polished coffee table. It was the kind of space that made you conscious of every gesture, every word. Today felt especially charged. The monthly family dinner had been moved up a week, ostensibly to celebrate my promotion, but I suspected Margaret had ulterior motives. She'd been watching me with those sharp eyes of hers, the ones that missed nothing and forgave less. So tell us about this new position, she said, passing around her famous pot roast. It must have been quite a surprise. A good surprise, I replied, accepting the platter. I've been working toward this for months. Months? Jared, Caleb's younger brother, looked up from his plate. I thought you'd only been at the company for 8 months total. Well, yes, but I made my intentions clear early on. Martin, Mr. Roussel, recognized my potential and helped me develop a career path. Martin, Margaret repeated, like she was tasting something unpleasant. Caleb sat beside me, silent and tense. He'd barely spoken since our confrontation 3 days ago, responding to direct questions with monosyllables and avoiding eye contact entirely. It's wonderful that you have such a supportive mentor, Diana said from across the table. My mother had driven up from Richmond specifically for this dinner, armed with maternal pride and defensive energy. Too many women don't get that kind of guidance in male-dominated fields. Exactly, I said, grateful for the support. Martin understands the challenges women face in corporate environments. He's been invaluable in helping me navigate the politics. The politics, Margaret echoed. And what exactly do these politics involve? Something in her tone made me pause. The usual things: building relationships, understanding company dynamics, positioning yourself for advancement opportunities. Building relationships, Jared said, with your husband's boss. The table went quiet. Sophie, who'd been chattering about her art class, sensed the shift in mood and looked around with wide, confused eyes. Professional relationships, I clarified, my voice sharp, which is perfectly normal and appropriate. Of course it is, Diana jumped in. Eulalia has always been excellent at networking. It's one of her strengths. I'm sure it is, Margaret said, Though I have to say, the timing is interesting. What timing? Well, Caleb mentioned that his Morrison project got reassigned right around the time of your promotion. Quite a coincidence. I felt heat rising in my cheeks. Business decisions aren't made based on family relationships, Margaret. Companies operate on efficiency and results. I'm sure they do. It's just that some people in town have been talking. What people? Diana's voice could have cut glass. Friends from church, neighbors. You know how small communities can be. What exactly are they saying? I asked, though I dreaded the answer. Margaret's smile was razor thin. Oh, just wondering about the nature of your mentorship. How hands-on it might be. The implication hung in the air like smoke. I felt Caleb's tension radiating beside me, felt Jared's uncomfortable shifting, felt Sophie's innocent confusion. I think, I said carefully, that small-minded people often resort to gossip when they can't understand legitimate success. Legitimate success, Jared repeated. Right. What's that supposed to mean? Jared glanced at Caleb, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. It means that people are talking, Eulalia, about you and Martin, about lunch meetings that look more like dates, about late-night texts and sudden career advances. People need to mind their own business. Hard to do when it affects our family. Diana slammed her water glass down. How dare you people sit here and insinuate? We're not insinuating anything, Margaret said calmly. We're stating facts. The facts are that Eulalia spends an unusual amount of time with her husband's boss, that her career has advanced remarkably quickly, and that Caleb's opportunities seem to have diminished proportionally. Those aren't facts, I said. Those are coincidences being twisted by jealous people who can't stand to see a woman succeed. Are they? Margaret's gaze was steady, unflinching. Because from where I sit, it looks like my son is being humiliated while his wife plays games with his livelihood. I am not playing games, Sophie started crying. The raised voices, the tension, the adult emotions she couldn't process. It all became too much. Caleb immediately moved to comfort her, lifting her onto his lap and murmuring reassurances. Look what you've done, Diana hissed at Margaret. What I've done. Margaret's composure finally cracked. I'm trying to protect my family from a situation that's spiraling out of control. The only thing spiraling out of control is your paranoid imagination. Mum, I said quietly, maybe we should go. Yes, Margaret agreed. Maybe you should. As we gathered our things, I caught Jared pulling Caleb aside in the hallway. Their voices were low, urgent, but I caught fragments. Can't let this continue. Evidence. Protect yourself. In the car, Diana was furious. The nerve of that woman, acting like you've done something wrong for being successful. I know, Mum. And Caleb just sitting there letting his family attack you. What kind of husband does that? He's been under a lot of stress lately. That's no excuse. A real man would defend his wife, not enable his family's jealousy. But as we drove home in silence, I couldn't shake the image of Caleb's face during dinner. Not hurt, not confused, not even angry, just resolved. Like he'd made some kind of decision. Later that night, I found him in his study again, door closed, laptop open. When I knocked, he minimized his screen before telling me to come in. We need to talk about tonight, I said. Do we? Your family basically accused me of having an affair. Did they? His calm was unnerving. You know they did, and you just sat there. What did you want me to do? Defend me, support me, act like my husband? He was quiet for a long moment, studying my face. Okay, tell me there's nothing going on between you and Martin, and I'll defend you. The words should have been easy. A simple denial, a reassurance, a lie to smooth things over. But something in his expression made them stick in my throat. I can't believe you're asking me that. I can't believe you're not answering. We stared at each other across a chasm that seemed to widen with each heartbeat. Finally, I turned toward the door. I'm sleeping in the guest room tonight. Okay. His easy acceptance stung more than an argument would have. As I reached the doorway, he spoke again. Eulalia? What? I love you. I've always loved you, but I won't be made a fool of. I wanted to turn around, to go to him, to fix whatever was breaking between us. Instead, I kept walking, telling myself that his inability to trust me was the real problem. Behind me, I heard him reopening his laptop, returning to whatever project was consuming his late-night hours. I told myself it was probably work. I was wrong about that too. 3 weeks later, everything felt different. Caleb moved through our house like a ghost, polite but distant, present but unreachable. He helped Sophie with homework, handled his share of household tasks, even made coffee for both of us each morning. But the easy intimacy of our marriage had evaporated, replaced by careful courtesy that felt more devastating than anger would have. "Daddy's sad," Sophie told me one evening as I tucked her into bed. "Why do you think that, sweetheart?" "He doesn't laugh at my jokes anymore, and he stares at his computer a lot." I smoothed her hair, guilt twisting in my stomach. "Daddy's just working on some important projects. Adults sometimes get very focused when they're concentrating." "Are you and Daddy getting divorced?" The question hit like ice water. "Why would you ask that?" "Emma's parents got divorced, and she said they stopped talking to each other first. You and Daddy don't talk much anymore." I forced a smile. "We're not getting divorced, baby. Sometimes grown-ups go through stressful periods, but we still love each other very much." "And you still love me?" "Always and forever." But as I kissed her goodnight, I wondered if I was lying about the first part. Did Caleb and I still love each other? Or had we moved beyond love into something colder, more calculating? My relationship with Martin had intensified in inverse proportion to my marriage's deterioration. With Caleb emotionally unavailable, Martin became my primary source of validation, excitement, and connection. We'd graduated from lunch meetings to after-work drinks, from professional mentoring to personal confessions. "You seem distracted lately," Martin observed during one of our evening meetings at a hotel bar downtown. "Just family stuff." "Caleb?" I nodded, swirling the wine in my glass. "He's been different, distant, like he's planning something." "Planning what?" "I don't know. He spends hours on his computer every night, but he won't tell me what he's working on. He's changed all his passwords, started locking his phone. It's like he doesn't trust me." Martin's hand covered mine. "Maybe he shouldn't." The words sent a thrill through me, dark and exciting. "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe it's time to stop pretending this is just professional mentoring." My heart raced. "Martin." "I'm serious, Eulalia. What we have is special, real. Why are we hiding it?" "Because you're married to my husband's boss, because I have a daughter, because it's complicated." "Life is complicated. That doesn't mean we have to settle for less than we deserve." He leaned closer, his voice dropping to an intimate whisper. "I've been thinking about us, about a future where we don't have to sneak around, where we can be open about what we mean to each other." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that maybe it's time for both of us to make some changes, big changes." The implication hung between us, terrifying and exhilarating. He was talking about leaving spouses, restructuring lives, making our affair into something legitimate and public. "I need time to think," I said. "Of course, but don't think too long. Opportunities like this don't wait forever." That night, I came home to find Caleb's study door open and the room empty. His laptop was gone, along with several file folders that usually lived on his desk. I checked our bedroom. His overnight bag was missing too. I found a note on the kitchen counter. "Gone to Jared's for a few days. Need some space to work on a project. We'll call Sophie tomorrow night." The house felt enormous and empty without him. I tried to feel relieved. No more suspicious looks, no more careful conversations, no more guilt about late-night texts. Instead, I felt abandoned. Sophie cried when I explained that Daddy was working on something important and would be staying with Uncle Jared for a little while. Is it because of me? She asked. No, baby, it has nothing to do with you. Is it because of you? The question was innocent, but it cut deep. Sometimes adults need space to figure things out. It doesn't mean anyone did anything wrong. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't true. 2 days later, Margaret called. I think you should know that Caleb's been staying here, not at Jared's. Why are you telling me this? Because despite what you might think, I don't want to see this family destroyed, but I also won't stand by and watch my son be humiliated. I'm not humiliating anyone. Aren't you? Her voice was tired rather than accusatory. Eulalia, I've been married for 35 years. I know what a woman in love looks like, and I know what a woman having an affair looks like. The question is, which one are you? I couldn't answer. He's gathering evidence, she said finally. Bank records, phone logs, witness statements. He's not the naive husband you think he is. Evidence of what? You know what. After she hung up, I sat staring at my phone, my hands shaking. Evidence. The word kept echoing in my mind, bringing with it a parade of memories. Credit card charges, text messages, lunch meetings, late nights, lies upon lies upon lies. I called Martin. We need to be careful, I said without preamble. What's wrong? Caleb's building some kind of case against us. His mother says he's gathering evidence. There was a long pause. Evidence of what? Our relationship, the affair. Another pause, longer this time. Eulalia, maybe we should cool things down for a while. The words hit like a slap. Cool things down? Just until things settle with your husband. I can't afford any workplace complications right now. Workplace complications? I felt something crumbling inside me. Is that what I am to you? Of course not. You know you mean more to me than that. But we have to be realistic about the situation. The situation you just told me we should stop hiding. That was before I knew your husband was building a legal case. Legal case. The words sent ice through my veins. What kind of legal case? I don't know, but I can't risk my position, my reputation. Surely you understand that. I understood perfectly. I understood that when things got difficult, when the fantasy threatened to become messy reality, Martin would protect himself first. I understood that I had risked everything for someone who saw me as disposable. I have to go, I whispered. Eulalia, wait. I hung up and sat alone in my empty house, finally understanding the magnitude of what I'd done. I'd traded my marriage, my family's stability, my daughter's security, for a relationship that evaporated the moment it became inconvenient. Outside, a car pulled into the driveway. Through the window, I saw Caleb getting out, carrying his overnight bag and laptop case. He moved with purpose, his expression calm and determined. He was coming home, but I had the terrible feeling that everything had already ended. The process server arrived on a Tuesday morning while I was getting Sophie ready for school. I opened the door expecting a delivery, maybe flowers from Martin as an apology for his sudden coldness. Instead, I found a woman in a business suit with a clipboard and an expression of professional neutrality. Eulalia Vane? Yes? You've been served. The envelope felt impossibly heavy in my hands. Through the kitchen doorway, I could hear Sophie chattering about her upcoming field trip, oblivious to the fact that her world was about to change forever. Mummy, who was that? She called. Just someone delivering papers for work, sweetheart. Finish your cereal. My hand shook as I opened the envelope. The legal language blurred together at first, but certain phrases jumped out like physical blows. Petition for dissolution of marriage, irreconcilable differences, custody arrangement, asset division. At the bottom, Caleb's signature looked foreign, formal. Final. I drove Sophie to school in a daze, her cheerful goodbye echoing in my ears as I sat in the parking lot, reading through the papers more carefully. Caleb hadn't just filed for divorce, he'd done his homework. Bank statements highlighted unusual charges. Phone records showed the frequency of my communication with Martin. There were witness statements from co-workers, timestamps from security cameras, even copies of emails I'd thought were private. My phone buzzed. A text from Martin. "We need to talk. My office, now." I found him pacing behind his desk, his usual confidence replaced by barely contained panic. "Did you know about this?" He thrust a similar envelope at me. "About what?" "Your husband's attorney contacted HR this morning. There's going to be an investigation into our professional relationship. They're reviewing your promotion, questioning the ethics of our interactions, examining whether company policies were violated." I sank into the chair across from his desk. "What does that mean?" "It means both our jobs are at risk. It means this whole thing is about to become very public, very messy, and very expensive. But we didn't do anything illegal. Didn't we?" His laugh was bitter. "Adultery might not be illegal, but workplace favoritism is a violation of company policy. Using my position to advance your career in exchange for personal favors could be considered a form of sexual harassment. You never harassed me. Try explaining that to an HR committee. Try explaining why a woman with 8 months of experience got promoted over candidates with years of seniority." The reality of our situation began to crystallize. This wasn't just about a marriage ending. It was about careers destroyed, reputations ruined, lives upended. "What do we do?" I whispered. Martin's expression hardened. "We minimize damage. You're going to tell them that our relationship was purely professional, that any personal interactions were initiated by you, and that I never promised or delivered any career advantages in exchange for personal favors. But that's not true. Truth is relative. What matters is protecting the company's interests and my position within it." I stared at him, finally seeing clearly. "You're going to throw me under the bus. I'm going to survive this. I suggest you figure out how to do the same." The meeting with HR was scheduled for that afternoon. I sat across from 3 stone-faced executives, 2 men and a woman, while they reviewed the evidence Caleb's attorney had provided. "Mrs. Vane," the woman began, "can you explain the nature of your relationship with Mr. Roussel?" "Professional mentorship," I said, the words feeling like ash in my mouth. "Professional mentorship that included frequent personal meals, after-hours communication, and what appears to be an intimate physical relationship. Mr. Roussel was helping me navigate company politics. Sometimes those conversations happened outside normal business hours." "And the physical relationship?" I glanced at Martin, who sat beside me with the expression of a stranger. There was no inappropriate physical relationship. One of the men slid a photograph across the table. It showed Martin and me at the hotel bar, his hand covering mine, our faces close together in intimate conversation. "This was taken 3 weeks ago," he said. "Does this look like professional mentorship to you?" My face burned. We were discussing a difficult work situation. Mr. Roussel was offering support during a challenging time in my personal life. Support that included regular hotel meetings. We met at various locations to discuss. "Mrs. Vane," the woman's voice cut through my stammering. "We have security footage, credit card records, and witness statements. We know about the affair. What we're trying to determine is the extent to which company resources and policies were violated in service of that affair." The room fell silent. I looked at Martin again, hoping for support, for partnership, for some acknowledgement that we were in this together. Instead, he was studying his hands, carefully avoiding my gaze. "I think," he said quietly, "that Mrs. Vane may have misinterpreted my professional guidance as something more personal. If she pursued a romantic relationship based on that misunderstanding, I certainly never intended to encourage it. The betrayal was so complete, so devastating, that I couldn't speak for a moment. He was rewriting our entire relationship, casting me as a delusional subordinate who'd imagined an affair that he'd never participated in." That's not true, I whispered. Mrs. Vane, Martin said, his voice gentle but firm. I understand you may have developed feelings that weren't reciprocated. It's not uncommon in mentoring relationships. But I never acted inappropriately or promised career advancement in exchange for personal favors. I wanted to scream, to rage, to present evidence of his pursuit, his promises, his declarations of love. But looking around the table at those impassive faces, I realized it didn't matter. Martin had position, power, and plausible deniability. I had desperation and a paper trail that made me look like an ambitious woman who'd slept her way to a promotion. I think we have what we need, the woman said. Mrs. Vane, you'll be placed on administrative leave pending the completion of our investigation. Mr. Roussel, thank you for your cooperation. As we left the conference room, Martin caught my arm in the hallway. I'm sorry it had to be this way, he said quietly. No, you're not. You're right, I'm not. But I am sorry you got caught. 3 weeks after the mediation, I sat in Jennifer's fluorescent-lit office and signed my name on the last page of the settlement. My hand didn't even shake anymore. The fight had leaked out of me somewhere between the third sleepless night and the day Sophie asked why Mommy didn't live with us, for real. Caleb got the house, primary custody, the 401k, and the dog. I got every other weekend, 40% of the savings, 18 months of alimony, and a neutral reference that might as well have been tattooed with scarlet letters. Martin kept his corner office and his marriage. HR called it poor judgment on both sides. I called it Tuesday. On my final walk through the house to collect the last box of my things, Caleb was in the kitchen making Sophie's favorite mac and cheese. She was at the table coloring a picture of our old family, 3 stick figures holding hands under a yellow sun. She'd drawn a 4th figure off to the side now, me, smaller, waving from a distance. Daddy says you have your own apartment with a balcony, she told me, not looking up from her crayons. That's right, sweetie. You'll have your own room there. We'll paint it whatever color you want. She considered this, tongue between her teeth. Can it be purple? Grape soda purple, I promised. Caleb didn't say anything until I was at the door. Then, quietly, drive safe. That was it. No lecture, no last twist of the knife. Just drive safe, like I was still someone he once worried about on icy roads. 6 months later, I watched Sophie bounce across the stage as Mushroom Number 3 in the kindergarten play. Caleb stood in the front row, holding a bouquet of daisies bigger than her head. When the lights came up, he caught my eye across the auditorium and gave me the smallest nod. Civil, distant, final. Afterward, in the lobby chaos of proud parents and sugar-crashing kids, Sophie ran to both of us at once, one arm around each of our legs, like she could glue us back together if she just squeezed hard enough. Look what I can do now, she announced, and let go of Caleb long enough to do a wobbly cartwheel right there on the linoleum. We clapped like it was the Olympics. Later, when Caleb buckled her into his car, she rolled down the window and waved frantically. See you Sunday, Mummy. Bring the purple paint. I stood in the parking lot until their taillights disappeared, then got into my own car and cried the kind of tears that don't make a sound, just hot, silent tracks down a face that finally understood the price of admission to the life I thought I wanted. Some nights I still scroll past the bistro on maps, the little red pin glowing like a burn I can't stop touching. I never go inside. I don't need to. I already know exactly what the pasta tastes like when you're sitting across from someone who makes you feel like the most interesting woman in the world, right up until the moment you realize you threw away the man who thought you were the only one. I kept the card Caleb left in my empty office. It's in the top drawer of the desk in my new apartment, the one with the tiny balcony where Sophie and I eat popsicles and watch the sunset turn grape soda purple. I hope someday you find what you were really looking for. I hope it was worth what you gave up to find it. Every time I read it, the answer is quieter, surer. No, it wasn't.